Hi there, it's Timmy and welcome to another episode of TimmyWA and what have you. Today is episode number 5. Good even number. I'm excited about episode 5 because today we're talking about Disneyland and riding the most rides. We're talking about maximizing your time and making sure you get the most bang for your buck. And you do spend a few bucks at Disneyland when you go. Now, I'm going to mostly be talking about Disneyland and some of the programs that Disneyland in particular offers, because Disney World is a different thing, and they have different programs and different ways of doing it. And we'll be going to Disney World later this year. Hopefully share some videos from there when we go and learn a bit more about those ways of maximizing your experience there. So honestly, let's get right into it. There's a lot of content here that I want to share. If you notice me looking over, I've got my sheet of notes. I don't have a good way of holding those up, but basically, let's just begin. Disneyland has three main ways that you could take advantage of their systems to ride the most rides. Now, let me back up a bit and start over, because I gotta let you know, I mentioned it a little bit in a previous video about us and how we do Disney. And if you've read my Disneyland blog, to disney.land, you know that our focus when we go to Disneyland is to ride the rides and all the attractions and experience the magic that way. That's how we do it. That's how we feel Disney magic. As mentioned, we don't do a lot with parades. We don't do a lot with character meet and greets and photos and signatures. We don't get into a lot of the extra little stuff like that. And you can, don't get me wrong, I'm not teaching you that that's how you have to do it, but that's just our way of doing it. That's how we feel the Disney magic. And when we go and we ride as many rides as we can. And things like parades and other shows and activities are actually what help us achieve those goals. And I'll get into that here in a second. But the first item up that is a feature that you can use, and it doesn't cost anything, at Disneyland, again, these are all Disneyland specifics, not Disney World or any of the other international parks, is Fast Pass. Now, Fast Pass traditionally has been a little paper ticket that you can slide your ticket in, or your pass, scan it, and it spits out a ticket that gives you basically a future time in line to shorten your wait time. And so it gives you a target area, like an hour or 2 hours, whatever, to get back to this ride during that time range to ride the ride. And there's usually a shortcut line that they provide for Fast Pass riders that gets you real close to the ride itself, and you get to skip a lot of the queue. So a lot of the rides, if not most of them, at Disneyland and Disneyland California Adventure all feature the Fast Pass. They do run out, like, as the day goes on. Certain rides only have a certain number of Fast Passes. And they do that to control volume, to make sure the Fast Pass system is still actually effective for keeping, for making sure that works. There was a time where they were experimenting Fast Passes for Pirates of the Caribbean. They even had the stanchion and the stands built so that you could scan your ticket. But those went away, and they decided they wouldn't do that because the queue and the ride capacity for Pirates is fantastic. It's, if not the best ride, it's up there. So people just run through that ride quickly. So they decided they wouldn't need to add Fast Pass. One of the more recent ones they added too is the Matterhorn bobsleds. So that was kind of nice, because that queue used to go almost all the way around the mountain. And that, along with the redesign of the queue, that doesn't happen anymore. So Fast Pass is great. You can get Fast Passes right away. One of the things we used to do before we discovered Max Pass, and I'll talk about that separately here next. Before Max Pass, we would run into, first thing, Disney California Adventure, and if not, Rope Drop, and Rope Drop's another one we'll talk about, and run to the Fast Pass dispensary for Radiator Springs Racers. That's the Cars Land main attraction there. You have to get Fast Passes for that, or else you'll just be in line for hours. And that's still that way. That ride has not lost anything in popularity. It's an amazing ride. It's a lot of fun. So what we used to do is we used to just cram down the streets of California Adventure, run over by It's Tough to Be a Bug, which is now closed and all blocked off because they're doing Marvel Land reconstruction there. We used to grab our tickets and just hustle as fast as we could and get Fast Pass tickets for Radiator Springs racers. So with Max Pass, we don't do that anymore, and I'll talk about that in a second. But that's an example of what Fast Pass can do. Now they do Fast Passes also for some shows. You can get Fast Passes for Fantasmic. That reserves you in the reserve section, depending on what time you pick up your Fast Pass. And there's 2 shows. They have a 9 o'clock show and a 10 o'clock show, I believe. And depending on where you are when you get your Fast Passes, it depends on which show you go to, and then they give you an area to line up in so you can watch the show. They do that as well for World of Color over in California Adventure. Same kind of deal. You pick the show you're going to go to, and then you get this reserve section. It's not seating, it's all standing room only, but it's a section that's at least in a good area that you can watch the show and enjoy it. And both of those shows are fantastic. Those are the exceptions probably to how we do Disneyland, where it's not just rides. We do enjoy Fantasmic, and we do enjoy World of Color. So those are things that would be exceptions to our hard and fast rule with that. So Fast Passes, again, they now aren't necessarily paper anymore. They attach to your ticket, your admission, and they're virtual. And I think you still can get a paper one, but it's been a little while since I've been there. They might have changed that by now. But basically, they still have the kiosk where you scan your ticket or your annual pass card, and you get that Fast Pass reservation. Okay, to talk about Max Pass, because I can't wrap my head around it right now, I brought in my lovely wife, Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
This is my wife. She's Rachel. She's beautiful. Okay, so tell us about Max Pass, because for whatever reason, the 17th time I've tried to explain it doesn't work. Go ahead.
So Max Pass is like Fast Pass on steroids. Explain the beginning part again about how much it costs and everything.
So $15 per ticket per day. The exceptions on that is if you're an annual plus, signature plus pass holder, or premier pass holder. Premier pass holder is the one that you get Florida and California.
That's on our bucket list, right? Yeah.
Okay, that's coming. So $15 a day per ticket, and you use it with the app. You have to have the app. And the nice thing is if you have a crowd, you can put everybody's tickets on one app, and then when you say add Max Pass, it says, do you want to do this to all of them? Yes. So everybody now is part of the Max Pass program. You have to get it for everybody. Everybody that's with you that's going to be riding these rides. So that's the number one difference that makes the Max Pass a little different than just a regular Fast Pass.
So the cool thing is Tim usually controls that, and you have to be checked into the park, to that specific park, to be using the Max Pass. So we will normally pick which park we want to be in first, either Disneyland or California Adventure, and we check in for the day or for that time period, and the minute we step in through the gate, we now are available to, or we are now eligible to get a Max Pass or get a Fast Pass for the rides. So Tim, using his app, can now pull up the ride we want, and he can check for all of us. We want to go on Space Mountain or Indiana Jones, or I think Haunted Mansion or Matterhorn, or whichever rides have the Fast Pass now. And the way it works is the Max Pass will then, on the app, tell you your time to return is between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. 9:10 a.m. and 10:10 a.m. It'll give you a time frame that you are eligible to return. And then it will tell you you can get your next Max Pass at 10:30 a.m. So you pretty much set your watch, set your timer for 10:30, because you know now that I need to get my next one at 10:30 because I don't want to waste any time.
Right.
So the best part about it is our old bodies don't have to now run to Space Mountain and get a Fast Pass. We now can get it on the app and get it a lot faster than what we could run. So if we want to do Radiator Springs Racers, we need to check into Disney California Adventure first thing in the morning and get our Radiator Springs Racers Fast Passes, and then cross over to Disneyland Park and just get in line at a park, because you can only have one Fast Pass at a time. not one per park,
Max
but
Pass?
one Fast Pass or Max
Oh, okay.
Pass. You can only have one Fast Pass or Max Pass at a time. Total, not per park, but total. The only exception to that is Tim mentioned the Fast Passes to the shows, Fantasmic, World of Color. You can have, or if there's ones for like Aladdin or the different shows like that, you can have a Fast Pass to those shows and still have Fast Passes to other rides throughout the day. Those ones don't count as actual Fast Passes.
Right.
So you can have those and still get Fast Passes to the other rides throughout the day. So that's kind of the general idea of a Max Pass. And you just need to keep an eye on it throughout the day and just keep piling up on your Max Passes, and then you need to make sure to use them. Now, we are very strategic about ours. For instance, Tim and Wyatt like to go on Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't. So whenever they want to go on that, we look for a ride in the park that's around the similar time of Max Pass, because when you go look at your Max Pass, it will say this is about the time that it's going to give you to come back. It will say if you get a Fast Pass right now, it will bring you back at about 1:10, and it's usually the app is pretty cool. The Disney app is pretty cool. It tells you wait times. It tells you if the ride is open or not, and it also will tell you what time the Fast Pass, not the Max Pass, but what time the Fast Pass return time is. So if I go up to the ride and get a paper ticket Fast Pass, it will say return between 5:50 and 6:50 p.m. If I look at the app, it will tell me right now this is what time those paper ticket return times are. So the Max Pass is usually a lot earlier than that. So even if the Max Pass, the Fast Pass, the paper Fast Pass is all sold out, if you will, because they've reached their limit, Max Pass usually still has some of those available. So if the boys want to go on Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't, Tim can reserve me on Soarin' Over the World, and he can reserve them on Guardians of the Galaxy at the same time. And because it's tied to your ticket, not necessarily to his app, but to my ticket, I can just pull out my phone or pull out my paper ticket and still use that, because my Max Pass is tied to my ticket. Even though he reserved it on his phone, it's still tied to my ticket, and I can use my ticket as my Fast Pass and go ride it at the same time that they are riding Guardians of the Galaxy. So we can still split up if we want to. I don't have to stand around waiting while they're going on Guardians of the Galaxy. I can still go on a ride and be making the most of my time there. So
that's awesome. Nailed that. Thank you, baby.
You're welcome.
Okay, so just as a quick review, with Max Pass, it's worth the $15 a day per ticket.
100%, and I'm
so worth it.
Money.
And it's fantastic, this program, and I hope they don't change it too much. I hope they don't get rid of it. I know that since they've launched it, they've done a lot of tweaking on it as far as like how many per ride and per day and stuff like that. So they're adjusting it, but it's still just fantastic. The other real nice benefit, if you've never used it before, is PhotoPass. You get PhotoPass free for that day, and that means that any ride photo, and then any of those photographers that are kind of in those tan outfits with the cameras around their necks, anytime you get a picture from either of those, the rides or those photographers, that's free. And you get to download those to your home computer, your phone, whatever, that's on the Disney app or the website for free for that day. And that's fantastic, because a lot of times you're just holding your camera up to the Space Mountain picture and you get this crappy, blurry, ride picture. Now, because they have the codes on them, you type that code in and you get that photo full quality, no glare, no blurry. It's perfect. So that's free. That comes with the Max Pass. That's a killer deal too.
So a word to the wise: every time you get off a ride, especially if you've gone single rider, go to those photos, take a picture of the photo, but really take a picture so that you can get that code. And then later in the day, when you're in a lull, when you're at dinner, when you've gone back to your hotel, then type in all those codes and upload them to your Max Pass. Don't waste time standing around while you're looking at the pictures and stuff, because that's just a waste of your time when you could be riding another ride. But do snap that photo, because if you don't have that code, there's no way you're going to be able to upload your ride pictures to your Max Pass.
Very good. Excellent point. So $15 a day per ticket. You have to use the app. You have to be in that park to use it at that park for those rides. You know, your results may vary. There may not be Max Passes available every time you want them. Usually when you get towards the end of the day, they start drying up, just like Fast Passes do. So just keep all that in mind. And again, if you're going to Disneyland, you're spending lots of money anyway. It doesn't hurt to add the Max Pass, and please do. That's our recommendation.
Sorry, one more hint.
No apologies. Go.
When Tim says that you have to be in that park, that does mean that everybody has to have checked into that park. So we tried one time where Tim had the app on his phone, and so he went over to Disney California Adventure and checked in and tried to get a Max Pass for all three of us while Wyatt and I stood in line in Space Mountain or something. And he could not get a Max Pass for Wyatt and myself at Radiator Springs, because Wyatt and I had not checked into that park. All three of you have to have scanned your ticket in that park for that, or at that time, because technically Wyatt and I were still checked into Disneyland and not into Disney California Adventure. And if you have not checked into that park at that time, you cannot get a Max Pass at that time. So make sure you do that, or you will be sorely disappointed. And then Tim had to call us and say, hurry on over here, and so you can check in so that you can then get that Max Pass, and then we just wasted a bunch of time. So make sure you keep an eye on that.
Yep. And if you're doing rides and attractions as an Olympic sport, the Max Pass is going to help you out. And again, like she mentioned, keep track of the next available Max Pass. It'll tell you on the app when you reserve the Max Pass, your next one is available, and it's usually 90 minutes in advance. So even if your Max Pass for, say, Space Mountain, and it's 9 o'clock in the morning, isn't until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, your next Max Pass is available at 10:30. So 90 minutes. So you can overlap. So you can technically have multiple queued up Max Passes because of that 90-minute span that they provide. It's really awesome.
However, if we check in at 9 in the morning and our Max Pass is for 9:10 a.m., then our next Max Pass is going to be at 9:10 a.m. because they're not going to make you wait an hour and a half if you don't have a Max Pass.
That's true.
So keep an eye on that as well.
Right.
Absolutely look at your Max Pass, look at your app to see, and keep an eye on that. When's the next one available? When's the next one available? Otherwise, you're just wasting time.
Cool. Awesome. So I think we got Max Pass nailed to the wall.
If you have any other questions, post your questions and we'll answer them in another video.
Definitely comment below if you have any questions. And my wife is an amazing pro at Disney, and I've learned everything from her. Mm-hmm. She went like at least once a year as a kid, right?
Usually about every other year.
Okay.
Of course, they didn't have Max Pass or Fast Pass back then, but
they had fun. So great. Thank you, baby.
You're welcome.
All right, so she can stay with us for the rest of this. I think I can handle it, but if you want to stay, you may. The next thing that we want to talk about is the single rider, and that's very simple. So certain rides, and I'll list them out here in a second, have a single rider line. And what that is, it's like Fast Pass, where it's like a shortcut. They give you an advantage in line to where you're almost at the very beginning where you can get on the ride. So Space Mountain, for example, has an amazing single rider line. And you go the back way through the entrance instead of the normal way. You're going through the exit. Thank you. And you get almost right to where they start loading you. And there might be 3 or 4 people waiting. It's been great because I don't know if a lot of people know about single rider on Space Mountain. It might be pretty recent.
It's brand new.
Yeah. So single rider's great. And again, it's single rider. So if you go with your family, you may all be split up. You may be able to go together. So a lot of times what we do is we'll go to the ride once together through the regular line with Max Pass or Fast Pass or whatever, so we can all be on the ride together and get a picture together, if it's a picture ride, and then from there on out we'll just keep using single rider. Now Single rider isn't always all on based on the ride. It depends on their demands. It depends on their crowds. So here's a list of rides that currently have single rider. And again, your mileage may vary. A lot of times, like Indiana Jones doesn't even have it. Like, you just have to go ask. So Matterhorn has single rider. Splash Mountain, Indiana Jones, Space Mountain. Over in California Adventure, Grizzly River Run, Incredicoaster, Goofy Sky School, and Radiator Springs Racing. And for Radiator Springs Racing, you have to use single rider if you don't get Max Pass or Fast Pass, because that ride is always hours.
If you think about it, that's probably one of the biggest rides where all the little kids can ride it. So all of the families are on that ride. So yeah, if you don't have Max Pass or Fast Pass, you want to go on it single rider. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting. I think the lines are always still up to 2 hours long on that ride. So if you don't have Max Pass or Fast Pass, go on single rider.
And again, single rider can still be a while. Like, it's not always 100% foolproof, but it's always going to be shorter than, especially Radiator Springs. And then again, some rides, they're on and off. Like, they don't always have it because of demand and whether they have a person there to man it. With Indiana Jones, you almost just always have to go to the kiosk that's just beyond, to the left of the queue line, and ask if they even have it. And so usually you send the line up through the exit, and then you get a shortcut into the queue to the ride. So single riders, big advantage. And again, if you're with a family or a group of people, go once through the regular line, so you get that picture, and then for the rest of the time, just single rider the heck out of that. So let me list those again. Disneyland, Matterhorn bobsleds, Splash Mountain, Indiana Jones, Space Mountain. At Disney California, Grizzly River Run, Incredicoaster, Goofy Sky School, and Radiator Springs Racing.
And know that you will be split up from your family. Don't be upset about that. Don't be disappointed. You will be split up. You will be going by yourself.
Yeah, and just expect that. And if you know, it's a lovely surprise if you don't, but just expect that. There's a little bit of, if you don't know people, there's a little bit of that stranger ick people have. So that may not be for you. That's okay. All right, and then finally, we've got 3 or 4 different little other things that aren't necessarily, a couple are things that we can control, some are not, like parades. So like I said at the beginning, we're not big into parades. We don't really care about them. They're kind of annoying, but the best thing about them is that they suck people away from the rides. And so people are going to be sitting in the streets and watching parades instead of being in lines and queues waiting for the attractions. So a great time to go ride those attractions is during parades, and just easy as that.
Now, there is one parade that happens around 2-3 o'clock every afternoon that shuts down half of Fantasyland. So know that, and know that there's a lot of the Fantasyland rides that you can't go on during that 2 to 3 o'clock hour. So just pay attention to that. And if you were planning on going on Storybook Canal or Casey Jr., a lot of those rides, they actually close those rides because the queue would run into the parade route and the parade watchers.
Yeah.
So don't even try to be around there because it gets really, really clogged up and really messy.
And I think fire safety code, they have to have pathways that they keep open for people to travel, because they're blocking off big parts of the streets for these parades, and so they have to have alternate paths for fire safety, for safety reasons. So be understanding of that. Please respect the cast members with their flashlights and their directing sticks, and be sure you're just polite as heck to those cast members there. They're some amazing people. Another one that seems maybe kind of obvious, but maybe you didn't think about it, is mealtime. And you probably just come up with an alternate meal schedule for yourselves. A lot of people eat lunch around noon, they eat dinner around 5 or 6, so adjust it by a couple hours, either earlier or later. And then during those times, again, go on rides because people are eating. Another strategy that you can use, and maybe these two can kind of go together, rope drop. Rope drop is, if you haven't heard of it or aren't familiar, is basically you get to the park earlier enough, they let you in before the park is open, and you go up and you line up in the hub in front of the land of your choice, and they've got ropes up because they don't want people in their rides yet, or in those lands yet. So When the clock strikes 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, whatever the opening time is, they play a neat little fanfare and an announcement, and then the cast members drop the ropes, and that's rope drop. So that gives you an advantage because you can just hustle up, and they tell you don't run, so don't run. Be safe, of course. But a lot of times, like rides like Peter Pan are almost impossible to get on all throughout the day. And so rope drop is a great opportunity to steal your way into that ride right away. And so you get a 30 or 40 minute wait instead of a 3 or 4 hour wait. It's crazy. And the other part of that is if you're staying at one of the hotels, or if you have book tickets through certain places, you get for, I think it's a 3-day or more admission. Then you get magic morning or extra magic hours, depending on what they call it. And each park will have a day where they open early for an hour early for those people who are staying at the hotels or have this on their tickets. And that's another way. Usually you can jump into Fantasyland and go ride Peter Pan, and that's probably the more popular one. So that one takes a little dedication because just like rope drop, you have to be up early, you have to go through security check, you have to just run through all that stuff, and that's, as you get older, that's tough.
So, but honestly, a lot of people try to do the bigger rides during early Magic Morning. They'll try to do Space Mountain or Indiana Jones. Now, first of all, a lot of those big rides aren't open because they only open certain lands for early Magic Morning. But I promise you, your biggest bang for your buck on early Magic Morning is going to be Fantasyland and those rides. Because again, Fantasyland is the one place where all of the kids can ride every single ride. So it is the most crowded place in all of Disneyland.
And they don't have Fast Pass
all day long. Yeah, they don't have Fast Pass. So Peter Pan is the #1 crowded ride, and it constantly has a 2 to 3 hour wait all day during the day. So if you hit that ride first, sometimes you are standing in line even the full hour of early Magic Morning. But you have now ridden the ride. I know that sounds silly to stand in line for an hour for just Peter Pan, but it's an incredible ride, and you've just only stood in line for an hour when normally it's a 2 to 3 hour wait. But we rarely even stand in line for an hour. If you go there very first for early Magic Morning, you usually can get in and out in 20 minutes. Yep. Then you hit Mr. Toad's Wild Ride because that is the second busiest ride there. And then you hit Dumbo because that is the third busiest ride there. And then all the rest of them you can hit by choice. Snow White.
Pinocchio.
There's, what's that?
Pinocchio.
Alice in Wonderland. Well, okay, so I take that back. Alice in Wonderland, I would hit right after Mr. Toad because Alice in Wonderland is the third busiest, and then Dumbo. So then Snow White, and then Pinocchio. But ones like Storybook Canal and Casey Jr., those ones, they'll go on and off throughout the day. They'll get longer and shorter throughout the day. If you hit them right after the parades, because like I said, they close them down for the parades and they make everyone get out of line. So if you hit them right after the parades, the line is gone and you can be first in line again. Now, if you are a Small World fan, which we are not, your best bet for that is right at Rope Drop. That ride is not open during early Magic Morning. So if you wait right there at Rope Drop, then the minute they drop that rope, you can go get first in line to Small World. And then you've got no wait there. Now that ride has 2 queues that split in 2 directions, so it's usually a pretty fast line, even if it looks really, really long. But so yeah.
Cool. All right. So lots to think about here. Let's just quickly review, and we'll just wrap this video up. So we've got the standard Fast Pass. That doesn't cost anything. It just takes effort and timing and just being aware of what ride you want to go on, what attraction you want to use, and then keep track of the timing of the ticket, and then make sure you hit that during that time. As a quick note, they used to be a lot more forgiving with that if you went late, but I've seen it before where they're not. They just say
they're sticklers.
They're like, yeah, sorry. So be a little aware of that. And then Max Pass, an extra charge of $15 per ticket per day. The exception, of course, is the Signature Plus Passport Annual Pass or the Premier Passport Annual Pass, where those are included. With the Max Pass, you get the Photo Pass also for that day, which means you get all the ride photos for free. You get the professional photographers that are in the tan outfits that take pictures in front of the castle or in front of the statues. Fantastic value. Just get that Photo Pass, because I think that's like $100 or something like that. Anyway, if you want to buy that separately. So Max Pass is great because it's like a virtual ticketing system. Every 90 minutes you can get a new Max Pass. And then then otherwise it kind of works like the Fast Pass, where it gives you the time to arrive. And then all that happens on the app, so you have to have the app for that. And then everybody has to be checked into that park, so you can't be in different parks. So those are and then single rider we talked about. And again, recommendation to ride as a family first, so you can get those cool pictures, and then you get the experience of riding together. And then for the rest of the time, ride them single rider as much as you can. And then we talked about parades, mealtime, and being advantageous because they suck people away from the rides. So that's great. And then rope drop and magic morning to help you just jump on those rides ahead of everybody else. One thing I wanted to mention real quickly that I was going to say is none of this really applies to Galaxy's Edge. They don't have Max Passes or Max Passes at all for the Smuggler's Run ride, either one. So just be aware of that. That doesn't apply to Star Wars Land. So just be aware of that. So other than that, if you have questions, like Rachel mentioned earlier, put them down in the comments. I'll address it in another video. This video, super awesome. A lot of information, probably a little longer. But I hope you enjoyed it. And please comment, like, subscribe, and share. And we love you. Anything else?
No.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. It's my wife, Rachel. Again, just to introduce her. And have a fantastic day and a great week. And the next video will come up Friday, and we'll talk about, I think we're on technology. So technology. All right. We'll see you then. Bye.